If you ever find yourself in this situation, don't do what she did. It all began in 2005 when a group of cave divers wanted to film a documentary in the most dangerous cave in the world. A few hours into their descent, a huge storm erupted, causing the main entrance to the cave to collapse. In order to avoid the huge falling rocks coming from the ceiling, they were forced to swim through an unexplored part of the cave. After diving for over an hour, they came across an island and decided to set up camp until the rescuers could get to them. After 2 days of being trapped in the cave, the cameraman decided to start filming in case they don't make it out of there. At the same time, one of their crew members does something very stupid.
Tunnels, take your pick! Oh, fuck it! Hello! Please! Is there anybody there? Hello!
This is why you should never let anyone kiss your babies. Savina and her mother was at a family member's house when a family member kissed Savina. A while later, she started developing bumps all over her face and bleeding all over her t-shirt. It turns out that that family member had herpes. Before I continue, Trump says TikTok has 45 more days. Just in case I find an app just like TikTok, link is in my bio. If you want to download it, I'm gonna be on there. Luckily, Savina got treated for it and eventually started healing, but do not let people kiss your babies.
Located in a cemetery in Vermont, there is a grave with a window to peek inside. This grave belonged to a man named Timothy Clark Smith. Timothy had a fear of being buried alive. This may seem like an irrational fear, but it was actually more common than people realize. Timothy patented a design for his own gravesite. Not only did he include a window on his tombstone, he also built a contraption that included a bell. In the case that Timothy woke up underneath the ground, he could pull a string and ring the bell to signal for help. Timothy passed away on Halloween in 1893, and he never needed to use the bell. The window to his grave is still there, although the visibility to see inside of it is very low after the years. But I can't imagine being a gravekeeper, hearing a bell ringing in the middle of the night, knowing that you are the only one there.
Taking this off and telling a story. One Christmas night many years ago, some kids were playing outside and they were all having a very good time. They were all waiting for Santa to arrive, and they were just overjoyed with excitement with all the gifts they're getting tomorrow. They all decided to play a game and summon Santa Claus. They remembered a story their parents told them about how to summon Santa Claus, and they thought it would be a good idea to see what kind of gifts they are getting tomorrow. They do the whole ritual, and something does not go as planned. Instead of summoning Santa Claus, they summon a witch. But not just any witch, a Christmas witch. She says, "You should never play around with magic." She says a spell and the kids disappear. None of them were ever seen again.
This old lady killed so many people. Baba Anushka, she loved chemistry. And when her husband died, she was like, I'm gonna make the house into a laboratory and sell potions. So a bunch of girls came to her and they were like, we don't want our husbands to go to war. And she was like, I can make them really, really sick so they don't have to. And they were like, yeah, do that. So she started getting really, really popular. But then all the girls were like, we actually don't like our husbands. Can you do a little more? And Baba Anushka was like, yeah, I can kill them. So then all the girls were like, oh, we like this. So Baba Anushka made these deadly potions, gave them to the girls gave them to their abusive husbands, and they were dead in like 8 days. And Baba Anushka would do this thing where she'd ask the girls, how heavy is the problem? Which was code for, how heavy is your husband? Because I gotta make sure I put enough in it, mama. She was so successful that she hired a sales agent to go into town and like sniff out people with marital problems. But this one girl fucked it all up. After she killed her shitty husband, she used another potion to kill her new husband's rich uncle. And the police were like, can you explain this? And she was like, it was Baba Anushka. Baba Anushka was like, are you fucking kidding me? But she ended up getting out of jail and then living to 100.
If you or your family have one of these bumper stickers in your car right now, I suggest you go and rip it off. Now, if you don't already know, these beloved stickers are a red flag to pedophiles to know exactly who's in your family. In a case not too long ago, a mother was driving home from her soccer game with her 6-year-old daughter. They'd stopped in a service station to pour petrol, and as they did, a car quietly pulled in behind them. The man could quickly see that there was just a young mother and her daughter, and from the back of the van, she could tell there was no husband, 2 other kids and a dog. The cameras then catch her car leaving and heading out onto the road, followed quickly by the man in the car. The very next night, a family member found their house wide open. The family family dog was laying dead in the hallway. It had been given some meat with poison in it. The mother was suddenly woken, but she had been asleep for more than 16 hours. Later discovered she was injected with the drug to put her to sleep, and her oldest daughter was missing, along with her 4- and 6-year-old daughters too. It's believed they were taken for human trafficking, so beware and remove those stickers.
This is why you should always keep your head on a swivel. In 2017, an elderly woman who lived alone thought she saw something moving in her backyard and went to the window to have a look. As she's looking around, a shadowy figure emerges right on the other side of the glass, standing in her backyard. Terrified, she keeps an eye on the figure while calling police, but by the time she hangs up, the figure's gone. When the police arrive, her front door is unlocked, so they go inside and they find her still sitting in front of the window looking for this figure. The police search the backyard, but they don't find anything. When the police go back inside to search the house, they quickly find some large footprints that couldn't have been hers in the room that she was sitting in and all around the first floor. That's when they realized what was going on. She wasn't seeing a shadowy figure in her backyard. She was seeing the reflection of someone in the room with her.
Take a look at your old photos, for you might catch a glimpse of the man with the upside down face. The upside down man is one of the most meanest and evil monsters. He loves to cause pain and death in order to feed off that energy. Photos from the 1910s to the 1960s started appearing online, and they look just like tragic events until you look closely at the background and you see the monster. He is not able to cause tragic events, but he is able to make the situation worse, like making arguments turn violent and blowing out tires to cause an accident. If you guys like monsters, scary stories, and lore, please support this video by liking it. Thank you.
This is why you should always pay attention to details. A woman was brushing her hair when she found a little bump at the back of her head, so she called her husband to have him check it out for her. He said it looks like a button. It's small, round, hairless, and flat at the top. He joked around it with her, asking, "What do you think would happen if I pressed it?" Then he did, and the woman instantly leaned up and gave him a kiss. Then the husband kept pressing it as a joke, but something went wrong. It seemed like he pressed it all too many times, and a cool numbness spread down the woman's neck, around her arms and her legs. Her eyes automatically shut and her vision went black. A while later, the woman woke up and learned that she had fainted. The husband kept apologizing with tears in his eyes as if it was all his fault. Eventually, they both went about their lives and tried to forget about this incident, but the woman just couldn't, because afterwards, she came across a photo of her family in the living room. It was a photo of her and her husband's wedding propped up on a ceramic urn. She looked closer at the photo of her own face. She's smiling as if she's the happiest girl in the world, but there's a small scar under her left eyebrow, a scar that she now didn't have.
This is the most dangerous kid in the entire world. One night in 2015, Rachel and her husband decided to go get pizza, leaving their 3-year-old son and his 19-month-old baby sister at home alone. Soon after these parents of the year left, the 3-year-old decided to take his baby sister and put her in the oven. He then turned it on full blast, but before I tell you what happened, TikTok still might be getting banned, so I'll be moving over to a new app just like TikTok. Links in my bio if you want to come too. By the time the parents got home and called 911, the baby had already passed away from severe burns. The 3-year-old told police that he had turned the oven on and had watched the entire thing go down. There were no charges against the 3-year-old, but the parents were charged with child endangerment and the kid was put into foster care.
Scary Things You Say Part 23. My son said to me, "Remember when I was Uncle Maury?" That was my brother. His name was Maury. He died when he was 33 and my son was born 5 years later. When I was little, over a year old, my mom was walking down the stairs. I told her, "Be careful, Mommy. That's how my husband died." What the heck? Babies know everything. I was 5. I found it out because my little brother talked to me, but no one believes me. He said, "I know your pain." I was screaming. My son was 3.5 years when he told me how much I was crying for a baby. He'd say, "God told me to wait because it wasn't my time." This is so I find it fascinating actually, not scary. Mine asks why the little boy that lives with us is always sad. I had a miscarriage prior to having him. Oh, this is so sad. My 6-year-old niece once asked, "Where were we before we were here?"
Sorry guys, I've been crying because I lost my pants, but I have a scary story. So last night around 4 a.m. I woke up to my dog barking. And I'm a light fucking sleeper, so I obviously woke up to him barking. And we have a gate blocking the stairs that lead to the basement because every time that dog goes in the basement, he chews up shit. So when I get out of my room, he's barking at the gate, like, leading to the basement. And I'm like, you know, this dog needs to shut the fuck up because I need to go to bed. So I let him go downstairs. And as soon as I move the gate, he fucking speeds downstairs. I'm getting fucking chills talking about this. So once he goes down there, I hear him go into, like, the main room and he just starts barking again. So I go downstairs with him to see what he's barking at. And when I go down there, all he does is stare at me and stop barking. I literally can't. I'm getting chills. I hate this. So he looks at me and then he looks back at where he was barking and he just starts sniffing the air like he was sniffing a person. So I ran my happy ass back upstairs and went to bed and cried. And it only gets worse.
Okay, sir, what's the location of the body? In the middle of nowhere. Perfect place. Just look for a truck. In a corpse. Are you with the deceased now, sir? I am the deceased. Excuse me?
Now, if your kids say they see faces at their bedroom windows at night, the doctor recommends you might want to believe them. In 2016, a young girl tells her parents she doesn't want to sleep in her bedroom anymore. She says it's due to the deformed man that stands at her window every night and watches her while she sleeps. In her fear, the girl sets up this booby trap to her bedroom door with a noose that's attached to a weight. The father's really frustrated about this booby trap because it can really hurt someone, but he allows her to keep it because it makes her feel safe. In August of the same year, the girl screams out to her dad because the man's there again. The father goes outside to check it out. But when he doesn't return, she sets the bedroom door trap. As she hears the footsteps come down the hall, she starts to panic. She screams at the sight of the deformed man in her doorway. As her trap wraps around this man's neck, her mum smashes the guy in the back of the head with a bat. When police later arrive, they're mortified to find the father's decapitated head at the front door. They later find the man they've captured is wanted for rape and murder of 3 other girls in the same state.
This is why you should never try using a Ouija board. My friends and I decided to play with a Ouija board after work in our office and spoke to a girl named Quinn. She didn't say much but seemed friendly enough, but when I mentioned my girlfriend, she got super mad and protective of me. When it got to 2 a.m, we said goodbye to her, but about a week later, in the middle of the night, the office block that we worked in burnt down. It creeped us all out, so a week later we used the Ouija board again near a lake and asked for Quinn. When we got through to her, we asked if she started the fire, to which she responded, yes. About 2 weeks later, I was driving to my girlfriend's house with the board in the back of the truck. I didn't know it at the time, but my girlfriend was in fact cheating on me. But I guess Quinn knew because I lost control of the truck and flipped it upside down. When the cops arrived to make sure I was okay, they reminded me what road I was on. Route 666, Virginia.
If this creature knocks on your door on Halloween, make sure you give it candy. 2 years ago, all the inhabitants of a small town went missing except for a young girl named Tara. When police asked her where everyone went, she told them that there was some type of monster with large horns that went door to door asking for candy, but that her town had stopped giving out candy on Halloween. She watched as each time a family didn't fill up the creature's pillowcase with candy, it dragged them into the river behind the town. Tara later said that she was the only one who survived because she had a small Snickers bar her teacher had given her, and she offered it to the creature, who nodded, patted her on the head, and went back to the river without her.
This is why you should always sleep with your lights on. In 1991, a man named Christopher Case was found dead in his bathtub, fully clothed in the fetal position. When police interviewed his best friend Sammy, she told them about a very disturbing phone call she got from him the night before he died. On the call, he told her that the previous night he had woken up to what sounded like whispering coming from underneath his bed. When he went to look, he couldn't move. As he laid helplessly, he watched a black figure pull itself out from underneath his bed. Once it was fully upright, it reached down and began choking him until he passed out. The next morning when he came to, he felt his neck and it was swollen and bruised. And then he saw blood on his hands and he saw that there were deep, uniform incisions on each of his fingertips. As he's saying all this to Sammy and telling her how scared he is to go to bed that night, he suddenly stops and he says, "I hear whispering outside my room." Then the phone went dead.
Would you stay home if your young daughter told you this? Just wait to the end. So it was no more than a week later that they had moved into a different family home that it happened. Annie had told her dad from the minute they moved into the house she didn't want to be there and she wanted to move again. To make her feel better, her parents had moved her bedroom twice already in the first week, but she still wasn't comfortable. It was during breakfast that morning that Annie's dad found cuts all up and down Annie's arms. He grabbed her arm and said, "What the hell have you been doing, Annie?" His little girl burst out crying. She said, "I keep telling you, Dad, we need to move, but you don't listen. The woman who lives here says she knows what you've done, Dad, and she's going to kill you. Every night she's come to get you, I stop her, and she scratches and cuts me. But I'm so tired, Dad. And she told me when Mummy and I leave the house this morning that no one will be here to stop her from killing you this time."